Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom Daily Live with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning, going through some wonderful material. And so I'm excited to hear him continue with the laws of charity and their applications. It's just beautiful stuff. So let's just jump right in. Shalom, Rabbi Schwartz. So good to see you again. I just got to put you on full screen. We're going to turn the class over to you, sir. Take it away.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, everybody. And I'm going to share the screen on our text, which is in the laws of charity. And here it is at D. Just mark this. So I'll put it there when we're up to the next one. Okay, so we are in the middle. We just started paragraph 10. And but it's going to be reviewed because we're going to go through the Talmud on which it's based on the Shulchan Aruch, and they're going to pretty much say the same thing, as we have found out. Sometimes you can see how Rambam, well, you often see how Rambam sifted and sorted things together to put them in a rational, logical manner, and then the Shulchan Aruch, for many of the times, just followed in his footsteps with small amendments, um, and it's interesting to see how that developed. Okay, so this goes to Talmud that we've had many times, Bava Batra, or Bava Basra in another pronunciation. And it says, our rabbis taught the collectors of charity, when collecting, are not permitted to separate from one another, though one may collect at the gate while the other collects at a shop in the same courtyard. Now that's in square brackets, is not in the original text. This is a copy from Cincino, which was an early translation of the Talmud. When I was doing this, that was the best one available. Now there's Art Scroll, which is called an elucidated translation. I don't know if I went into this before, but it's got much more modern English, and also they put in many more phrases that are missing. This is, and the reason I'm stopping here is because, as I think you'll detect later, it's a little mysterious what exactly they mean that they're not permitted to separate, although one can go to the gate and one to the shop. Where's the gate? Where's the shop? And how far apart? Did they have to be within sight of each other? Could have said that. Or is it, 10 yards or 100 yards or even within earshot? Could have said that too. It's a little surprising the way it's described. If one of them, what assumes it's um, not impropriety so much as the appearance of impropriety. That's the main theme here. Is that you the two makes it look better. If one of them, so I continue. If one of them finds money in the street, in terms of impropriety, he should not put it into his purse, which he's entitled to do. He found the money. We're talking where he found money that has no signs as to whom it belongs to, in which case it's considered abandoned and free for the taking. You're never going to be able to return it to the owner because he can't identify it. So you found money like that, but you shouldn't put it into your purse, your pocket, but into the charity box. You're presumably walking around with a charity box because you're one of the collectors. And when he comes home, you should take it out. That's when you take it out and put it in your own pocket. But as long as you're handling with money, any money that comes into your hand, put into the box so people don't think you're stealing for yourself. In the same way, if one of them has lent a man a mina and he pays him through whatever mina is, some kind of amount, and the guy came and paid you in the street publicly, so then he, the guy that got the money back, should not put the money into his own purse or pocket, but into the charity box and take it out again when he comes home because it's his money. But just it looks strange for him to put money into his own pocket while he's obviously publicly he's got the charity box in his hand, so people know he's going around collecting money, and they expect him to be honest with it. And then after a little while, it says, in counting out money collected for charity, they should not count the coins two at a time, but only one at a time. So that was something else that Rambam had said. It looks like you're, doing a sleight of hand when you count by two, or somebody might be suspicious. So that was the Talmud base for the Rambam. Now we go to the Shulchan Aruch, which derived from the Rambam, and see what he says. In 257, the charity collectors are not permitted to separate one from the other unless in a manner, now the Ramah says, wherein one can see the other, for example, that one goes to the gate and one goes to the storefront to collect. So again, the Shulchan Aruch just lifted the language of the Rambam, who lifted the language of the Talmud, but the Ramah now inserts, he, for the first guy in this development, says what he feels is the obvious case is that we're talking where you can within eyesight of each other. That's what they mean by this example. You could ask, well, why didn't they just say that when they think of that phrase? And that may be that's what gives it. That's where the scholarship comes in, because now you can argue and say, well, the Talmud and Rambam could have thought of that phrase, but they meant something else. What is it that they meant? We don't know, but they could have thought of the phrase within eyesight. Okay. Should a collector find money in the marketplace, he should not put them into his pocket, but into the charity purse. And when he reaches his home, he may take them. Should a collector be owed 100 by his friend, dropping the mina, doing 100, who pays him in the market and the street, he should not put them into his pocket, but into the charity purse. And when he reaches home, he may take them. The funds of the kuppah should not be counted by two, but by ones, lest suspicion arise. For it is said, "You shall be innocent before God in Israel," is the same verse that the Rambam quoted. Okay, so that was the three levels of the erudition there. My notes are, as is evident from Ramah's amendment to the Shulchan Aruch, M's meaning of Maimonides, Rambam's meaning originally is that the two may separate to opposite corners of a courtyard, say one at the gate, one at the store, opposite corners to collect, as long as they are in sight of each other. So they can see each other, so they're still considered a pair. The reason for this, as explained in paragraph 10, is the need to not only act honestly, but also to maintain the appearance of honesty. The assumption here is that each collector acts as surety to the righteousness of the other's actions. And so you find this in many other circumstances, even to this day. I'm thinking of, they always have two police in a car. They used to have one, but they wound up in trouble. But I might not be because of to help each other, cover each other's back, might not be just so that they appear. But there's also that thing that, if you've got somebody, you never try, if you're going to do something dirty, so it's true, you could collude with the guy, but you're always at his mercy. So it's harder to do. Okay, paragraph 11. Charity collectors who cannot find needy people to whom to distribute the funds. So they collected, but there's nobody around. Should change their funds into negotiable securities with others, but not with themselves. And we're talking back in the day when they didn't have currency the way we have, where everything's printed, it's standardized. They didn't even have a way of standardizing. Even if they had a press, sometimes it was whatever, or they just didn't have the same production methods we do today, mass production, where everything's the same. Plus, they were making coins out of the actual metal, the actual rare metal, gold, silver, whatever, not something that was representing that value. The collectors, when you changed it, there was always the possibility that you're going to be biased and not make the fair trade. The collectors of tamchui, that is the guys that collect the food that's left over at night, who cannot find needy people to whom to distribute, should sell their goods to others, but not to themselves. So you want to sell it, because there's no storage, there's no fridges, so you got to find somebody that will buy it, going to get a low price, because there's not many buyers. Everybody's eaten already. People that didn't eat are waiting for a good deal. But don't buy it yourself. get it to somebody else, even if it's going to be a very low price. We do not take an accounting of the charity funds with the collectors, nor do we do so with the guardians of temple funds. For it is written, but do not weigh with them the money given into the funds, because they deal faithfully. That's the same verse that he quoted up here. I think it is, but I didn't have the source there. Okay. It's a verse in, Kings. That was talking about where they were building the temple by King Solomon, Shlomo Melech, when he was building the temples. So that's why he brought it in, because we learned from the way they conducted themselves in the temple that we should do the same with the charity funds. Because he has a whole different section on how to build the temple, but because he needed this idea for the charity funds, so he brought it in here. I guess that's what's going on. Okay, so he got this from the Gemara that says, from the Talmud, Bava Basra, same place, our rabbis taught, if the collectors still have money but no poor to whom to distribute it, they should change the small coins into larger ones with other persons, but not from their own money. If the stewards of the soup kitchen have food over and no poor to whom to distribute it, they may sell it to others, but not to themselves. Our rabbis taught another Talmud close by. This was 8b. It goes on to 9a. They're probably one after the other. Our rabbis taught the collectors for charity are not required to give an account of the monies entrusted to them for charity, nor the treasurers of the sanctuary of the monies given for holy purposes. There's no actual proof of this in the scriptures, but there is a hint of it in the words, they reckoned not with the men into whose hand they delivered the money to give to them that did the work, for they dealt faithfully in Kings. That's the same verse. So that's where Rambam got his stuff. Now, Shulchan Aruch, all this is in very small print because it just repeats it again. So I'm going to save the from. By the way, anybody who wants a copy of this, ask and you shall receive. It's all in documents that I can send, and then you can play with it as you like. Ramah writes on that same thing that the Rambam wrote. Nevertheless, in order that they be innocent before God and Israel, it is best for them to offer an accounting. So he said, both of them have said, you don't have to ask them for an accounting. You trust them. They have to act on an honest appearance. They have to appear honest, but then we don't question them. Even if they did something that didn't appear honest, we don't question them. We selected them. We trust them. But he's saying that even though that is the case, they should offer an accounting. All this relates to collectors who are deemed proper. But one who is not deemed so, sometimes you have to hire a guy or appoint a guy you're not really sure about. So, or who was appointed as a result of power or force, you had to give him, he built his way in. They must give an accounting. And the same applies for all communal appointees. If there's any question, they have to give an accounting. At the discretion of the community, they are able to remove a collector and appoint another without fear of arousing suspicion, and the same applies for all communal appointees. So he introduced this idea, this scenario, where somebody may have forced his way into the position. It's got, it's the richest guy in town or something like that, and he gave it to his son. Something like that happens. So what are you going to do? Well, you can ask for an accounting. And if they refuse, then you can remove them. Now, if it's a guy that you can't remove, obviously you're not going to be able to. But what he's saying at the end is that if there's any hint of impropriety or there's rumors go out, and you don't have that, you don't believe the rumors, but because there are rumors, look what's happening now with Johnson, with his integrity about this investigation into the influence of China in the government of Canada. People are listening to the States and may not be familiar with this, but there was a great rumor going around that China had interfered in government affairs here in Canada, and the Prime Minister appointed this guy who was an old family friend who had a reputation as being very very fair and unbiased, but he was an old family friend, and so he investigated. He came out with a ruling. Says, well, I can't tell you what it is, but it's all okay. Well, the public went wild on that. They don't trust him at all. He's lost all trust from everybody, and it's gone really bad. But even before that, if Trudeau, if he would have, the prime minister would have come and said, "Look, made a mistake. We're going to appoint somebody else, and it's not going to make suspicion of you. He doesn't have to worry about that." That's what he's saying here, is that you can, you have the right, the discretion to remove somebody from office and say it's not that you don't trust them, it's just that it's somebody else's turn, and so on, and be able to do that, and they can't accuse you of ruining their reputation. That's basically how I understand what he's saying. The Ramah. This is the Ramah. Okay, so that is the authorities. My notes say that paragraphs 8, 9, and 10, the last ones we had, discuss activities from which the collectors should refrain. In other words, don't give any appearance. As noted above in paragraph 10, concludes with the reason for this being the requirement to maintain the appearance of honesty. So then why does Rambam begin again in this paragraph to discuss further activities from which the collectors should refrain in order to avoid suspicion? Let me go over this question again, because it's been a while since we read those. We're in paragraph 11. We did 3 before, 8, 9, and 10, that talked about the appearance of being honest. Then in here, he starts over again and says, he gives an example here that should do it with others and not themselves. So my question is that he could have, what I'm saying is that paragraph 10 concluded that the whole reason that I'm telling you all this is that people have to appear honest. So then, if that's the reason, so why is he coming again in paragraph 11? I guess what I'm saying is he should have said paragraph 11, and at the end of 11 said, and everything I said above from 8 all the way through, that's all because the guy should appear honest. The fact that at the end of 10, he said this is all to appear honest, and then starts again with a new situation, sounds like this is a new situation. It has nothing to do with appearing to be honest. And what is it? And that's what bothered me. And I asked another question. Why also does he couple this new prescription with the very opposite general rule that we do not take an accounting of the collectors because they're acting in good faith? There's don't act suspicious, but we trust you. We trust you. We're not going to ask for an accounting. So it seems like the two ideas are at loggerheads with each other, and that bothered me. And you have to be very careful. I mean, sometimes you'll find a statement that doesn't sound right. You'll dig in. You'll say, no, it's okay. But sometimes it'll reveal that there's a whole point you missed. That's what I'm doing here, and I don't remember what I come up with, so I'm going to keep reading. Perhaps M's concern in this paragraph is not one of maintaining the appearance of honesty, because he's done with that. That was 8, 9, and 10. Indeed, if the collectors exchange the money themselves, how will this become more widely known than the act of removing his own money from the charity box after returning home, as described in paragraphs 9 and 10? In other words, in paragraphs 9 and 10, he said, if you find money or somebody gives you money on the street, put it right into the charity box so that you don't, people just see you pass by will not think you took money for yourself. So you be careful to appear honest. Okay, fine. But when you get home, then you can do it, no problem. Well, here you're exchanging the money for yourself, so you're doing that at home. You don't have to do that in the street. There's no reason to do it in the street. So why can't you do it? If you're going to do an honest thing, we trust you. You're going to change it honestly. It's this beat up coin is worth 3/4 of all those other coins, not a full amount, etc. So, um, what are you? What's the problem here? Why can't you exchange it yourself? That's my question to this. So instead, I say the concern here may be that the collectors should not place themselves in a position that may tempt them to an evaluating exchange rate in their own favor. Having thus guaranteed their own third-party status of impartiality, others are then forewarned from questioning this status. In other words, you guys, first of all, realize you can put yourself in a tempting situation. Don't do that. And once we're convinced you're not going to do that, then we're never going to ask you for an accounting because we know you're not going to be tempted. That's what's going on here. Is that you're acting alone at home, but you have the guideline. You're not going to change the money yourself. You're not going to be personally involved. So you have no leg in the game. What's the phrase? You have no stake in what's going on. So that way we can be sure you're going to not make any mistakes. Now this thought, I want to just dwell on it for a second, is a very deep thought that many times we can put ourselves in a position where we you're opening up temptation. You may think not, but you are. And it's very hard to ignore that. And so, even though it may look weird to stay away from a certain situation, you're better off doing that than not. Like one thought comes to mind, like I follow the news in the States, and Michael Pence just filed to run for president, and I remember that when he ran with Trump beforehand, the news came out that he will not go to a meeting with a woman without his wife. He's an older fellow. He's happily married. Nobody's thinking that he's going to, jump on the girl. But he's not subjecting himself to temptation. He's keeping, making sure that's right. That's right. He's just not taking any chances, and that is a very, very honorable way of behaving yourself, and a very clever way because you can never trust yourself. I read a story about an old rabbi, really an old guy, and they hired some lady to clean his house because his wife died, and so she was working late, and he came home. He was away. Came home, so he was, and there was a fellow staying with him. So when there's two, there's another party, so it's okay. But the young fellow who's staying with him, he said, "Look, I got to run an errand." He says, "Okay, fine." So when he came back an hour later, he found the rabbi outside his house. He never went in. He says, "So what'd you stand outside? It was cold." He says, "Well, you never, I didn't want to be alone in the house. The woman, even though I'm old, you never trust yourself." And it's just that was really probably going an extra mile, or maybe 2 extra miles, but that's what he did. So there's all kinds of situations like that, and I just want to dwell on that for a minute because it's important to keep in mind. Paragraph 12. Whoever dwells in a country, this is going on a new situation. Whoever dwells in a country for 30 days is enjoined to donate to the Kupa fund, that's the weekly fund, together with the other members of that country. He's in the country or jurisdiction, let's say. Once he has dwelled there for 3 months, he is also enjoined to donate to the tamchui, that's the soup kitchen. Having dwelt there for 6 months, he is enjoined to donate gifts of clothing from which the city provides clothing for its needy. Having dwelt there for 9 months, he is enjoined to donate to the burial society from which is provided a grave and the other burial necessities to the poor. So they have all kinds of funds. We haven't mentioned these funds before, but you can have these funds for clothes and burial needs, um, and maybe other things. Um, and and there's different collection cycles, or at least different residency requirements for each one. So that's Rambam. The Gemara, Bava Basra again, but here before the earlier part. He reordered it. And the part of the Gemara says, the Mishnah part said, how long must a man reside in a town to be counted as one of the townsmen? Answer 12 months. However, however, he buys a house there, he is at once reckoned as one of the townsmen. So they're talking generally that he's going to be counted as a citizen, a resident. To this, the Gemara says, and now we're on 8a, which is where we got a lot of other material already. But he is 12 months residence required for all imposts. I'm not even sure what that word means. Again, it's a Sonsino word, which is, by the way, produced in England. So they have words that the English may be more familiar with than Americans. Has it not been taught, a man must reside in a town 30 days to become liable for contributing to the soup kitchen, 3 months for the charity box, that's the kupa, 6 months for the clothing fund, and 9 months for the burial fund, and 12 months for contributing to the repair of the town walls. So why'd you start off here? All you mentioned over here was 12 months. So they're asking, what about all these other things? I'm, I'm so glad you noticed. I'm so glad you noticed. That's going to be a bone of contention. The Rambam said that I double checked. I got the Rambam right. I got the Gemara right. There is a difference here. So we have to deal with it. Well, let me finish reading the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi replied in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, our Mishnah also, in specifying the period of 12 months, was thinking of the repair of the town walls. In other words, this Mishnah wasn't addressing all the charitable needs. They were addressing a residency and the needs of everybody in the community. So you can live in a town for up to 12 months and not have to contribute to the general welfare of the place, keeping the walls safe, the roads smooth, things like that. But after 12 months, you have to pay your yeah, pay your share. Okay. So now I've got this in small letters because it just repeats the Shulchan Aruch. And but now he says, when does all this apply? When he declares, just a minute, I'll say it. He repeats the Rambam here. Whoever dwells in the country for 30 days is enjoined to donate to the Kupa first, and then after he's dwelled there for 3 months, then he has to donate to Samchui. So both the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, their first requirement is to the Kupa after 30 days, whereas the Talmud said, no, the soup kitchen is first after 30 days, and it's the charity boxes after 3 months. So we're going to have to discuss this. But first, let me finish the authorities. When does all this apply? When he declares upon his arrival that he does not wish to reside there permanently. So, okay, so you're a visitor, so we're not going to ding every visitor. But once you're there for a while, you're not so visitor anymore. Now you start contributing according to the length of your stay. However, if he moves in with the intention of staying, tells everybody, glad to be here. I'm digging in. He is enjoined from the start. Now, right away, he's got to start contributing. And the Ramah says, similarly, the inhabitants of a new community enjoin each other from the start. In other words, a bunch of people get together to start a town, so they don't have to wait for a year or 30 days or right away. We're together. We're working on this together. Some say that in these times, we assess all levies after 30 days. In other words, you can't trust it. The first 30 days are always iffy, so I wait to see for the dust to settle who's still there. Okay. My notes say this card. What? Yeah. Oh, we're out of time. Okay. So no, we're gonna keep to our line. If you okay, is that D? So that's it.
Well, this is such critical material for community development. I mean, Yeah, all the way around to the building of a wall, or the wall fund and burial fund and things of that nature. I mean, it's really got in mind the development and security of a community for sure.
And we implemented a lot of these things in every the Western democracies and the governments and so on. So it will be interesting to compare and see how the different ideas apply to one another. Um, but they're all relevant. Before we leave, we have to remember to say there's no class tomorrow. I have to attend the wedding, and I was hoping to be able to do the class from there, but logistics don't work out.
You're
So
probably better safe than sorry. Yeah. Plus,
yeah,
I got family in town from the coast, so I can keep myself busy. Yeah.
okay, works out. And so we'll be back next Sunday night.
Sunday night then.
Sunday night,
Okay.
and by Sunday night, by that time, everybody will forget. I'll have to go over this again.
And it's my fault, folks, for not getting the advertisement out earlier on this class. Just get busy, taken away, and I was chatting with my wife, and time just flies. And yeah, I mean, I've done about 1,400 or so broadcasts. It's just, yeah, the first time I actually forgot about one. But I caught it on time, and we got the class off, Rabbi, and it's just such a joy. And so we're going to sign out for today, and that's our Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning. Rabbi, if you could email me those notes, I would appreciate them, because there's so much data there that I think is useful for sure. We will be back on Sunday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, and I will make sure I get the ad out early. Till then, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Bye for now.
Shabbat shalom.